I'd like to call now on the Honorable Christian Bakanu, former member of the Romanian Parliament.
So till I have my presentation on, I just want to say it's a great honor to be here. Thank you, Robert, for having me invited as a speaker. I come from a country where we have the largest building, civilian building in the world, our House of the People, our House of Parliament. But the largest building in the world is the Pentagon. China just announced the whole world that they are planning on building a similar building like the Pentagon, just 10 times bigger. So that's a real statement about challenging our ways of living and our, what we know so far. What happened last week when the Chinese launched DeepSeek AI to challenge the ChatGPT brought a huge blow to the value of shares of NVIDIA. And it was not such a first incident. I just mentioned the Pentagon, but there are many others. You know, I'm talking about the artificial intelligence that was not supposed to exist without the American advanced AI microchips. I'm talking about the algorithms that are affected by censorship, and you can see this here. If asked about Taiwan or about the Tiananmen Square incident, unless, of course, we change A with a 4, and E with a 3, and O with a 0, then goodbye censorship. Well, here. Should have, yeah, right. Equally well known, on the 26th of December last year, we saw two sixth-generation, so not one, two sixth-generation fighter planes, Chinese made, flying on the same date, on the 26th of December. We're talking about the Chengdu Aircraft Corporation model and also about the Shenyang Aircraft Corporation plane. Of course, in my view, such a show of technological might is more of a marketing stunt. Because if we take a look at the fifth-generation planes, we see that the true contenders are only these ones. As NATO allies, the US, and the allies in, in Asia, such as South Korea, for example, and Japan, and of course, we got to speak about Australia as well, all together have so many more fifth-generation stealth fighters than China and Russia combined. So another example is when, next slide, right, no, here. Yeah. So when the former US Secretary of Commerce, Gina Raimondo, programmed a visit to the Republic of China in the summer of 2023, very little people would have guessed that Huawei would shock the world by announcing its first 5G phone with an entirely designed and built 5G microprocessor, because everybody knew they didn't have the technology for that. I should have a photo of that phone here. No. Back. This is just ruining my presentation. Here. It must be some American technology that switched the photo, sorry. So on the 29th of August that year, in 2023, while Ms. Raimondo was having a pre-planned meeting with the Chinese Prime Minister, Huawei announced the Huawei Mate 60, which was a groundbreaking phone for Chinese technology. And that is because it was a phone that used the microprocessors that had technology of 7 nanometers. And everybody in the whole world believed that the Chinese were only able to produce 14 or 16 nanometers microprocessors. So that is very interesting because what they did, they used an old technology, again this, right. Right. They used an old technology, the DUV, that in an innovative way to create such a microprocessor. While the American companies and even Samsung and of course TSMC, which is the most important microprocessor producer in the world, they use a different technology, the EUV. And this is because after 2019, China has been under sanctions, and for the right reasons, because it demonstrated that its use of technology was aimed at spying the whole world. And I'll give some examples. Hope this works. Can you? Yeah, right, cool. When China eavesdropped on half of the population of the Netherlands in 2010, half of its population, I repeat, including the Dutch Prime Minister, according to a report by AIVD, the Dutch Internal Intelligence Service, or when Huawei loaded a malicious code into the Australian Optus network. It worked as a digital wiretap, recording both private communications and information that could be used to target specific people. Or when, according, and this is a telling photo, according to an FBI investigation, a Chinese telecom company, one of the two, Huawei or ZTE, placed equipment on top of cell towers near US military bases in the rural Midwest. Equipment that had the capacity to capture and disrupt secret communications by the Defense Department, including those used by US Strategic Command, which oversee the country's nuclear weapons. Or, by the way, when between 2009 and 2011, Vodafone Europe, Europe's biggest telecom company, found that in Italy, Huawei had hidden backdoors in the software used for a system providing internet to millions of homes and businesses. John will tell you more about 5G, I'm sure. So the surprise came when Huawei mate 60 with 5G capabilities was not based on this Western chips that we knew that was supposed to be used for 5G, because prior Chinese chips could not be used for 5G technology. And this was made by a company which is called SMIC, and this is from China. So what happened was that when the Western companies investigated this chip, they found out that it was a chip which is called the Kirin. And the next slide. Right. Which was used with this new technology without EUV lithography tools. And this shows the constant willingness of China to innovate, even by using the older technology. And at the same time, this shows that the simple restrictions may not be enough for a country which is always improving and manufacturing a lot of assets for the whole world. According to a statistic, if nothing changes by 2030, China will provide about 45% of the industrial produced goods for the whole world. So, to better understand the reasons behind all these restrictions, which are rightfully imposed by the United States on the tech companies, we need to see that the survival of values-based democracies is conditioned to not losing the technological upper hand and the access to the markets at the same time. This is why, next one, yeah, yes. This is why, in a rightful way, the US adopted very good measures in the last 2 years, such as enhanced export controls, the prohibition to have US investments in specific sectors, new sanctions on Chinese companies, and now, last but not least, the new 10% tariffs on Chinese products by President Trump, which I hail. And of course, there are so many programs which are so important, like the one for nearshoring. And I would like to mention that I saw the huge investments by TSMC, Intel, and NVIDIA in Arizona. Just in 2023, they invested about $100 billion in Arizona alone in the industry of producing microprocessors. But we've done the same in Europe. We have Poland, we have Germany, and we have Ireland, and we will see new facilities there. Not at the same level of investment, unfortunately. So we, in my view, need to see this so much more than just a commercial war, because this is, in my view, a clash of civilizations, a fight between two different systems. Nope. Right. Going back to the Tiananmen Square. We're talking about rules versus the will of the few. We're talking about democracy versus autocracy. And we're talking about human rights versus the violation of liberties and of freedom. In the end, we're talking about being allied with countries such as Japan, Australia, France, Germany, the UK, South Korea, the Philippines, or Thailand, or being on the other side with Russia, who just invaded a couple of years ago Ukraine, with Iran or North Korea, who's fighting alongside Russia. We're talking about the control over the technologies and control over the big data and the process of big data. And we all know that the Chinese have been stockpiling huge amounts of data after they implemented the digital Silk Road, which was a mechanism to finance 5G and telecom infrastructure all across the world, from South America to Africa and to Asia. We're talking about TikTok versus Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube. And in my country, we had a set of elections canceled because of TikTok, because we had unfair competition and we had this one candidate that declared 0 expenses, while this was not the case, and TikTok did not respond immediately to the request of our government. Thank you, and I will give the floor to John.
Thank you.